And after that choke, I was feeling like I should go join Harry Maguire on the bench at Manchester. Been one set away from legend numerous times already this season. What is going on, everyone? Ox here with another video. If you're new to the channel, we do upload Pokemon Go content mostly related to PvP, and if you're a returning subscriber like Black Rayquaza PvP, thank you for the support. In today's video, we are taking a look at my final battles for Season 11, trying to make that final push for Legend rank. These battles take place in the Open Great League, and they are featuring a team with Alolan Ninetales in the lead, Registeel operating as a safe switch, and Shadow Swampert as the closer. Now on paper, this team actually isn't going to make a lot of sense because it is going to be ABA weak to just about any fire type Pokemon in the lead. It's also going to be very weak to Galarian Stunfisk and Nidoqueen in the lead, and it's also going to struggle against a Pokemon like Trevenant. I built this team based on the meta that I was personally seeing at the moment, which didn't include too many fire types, and really took advantage of Registeel as a safe switch, often being able to take a shield advantage even when losing. Ideally, we will lure out a fighting type for Alolan Ninetales or a Trevenant, which will keep it away from the Shadow Swampert. The end goal with this team is to have a shield advantage for Shadow Swampert to close out the match. We'll see if this strategy ended up being enough for me to reach Legend rank. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really helps the channel grow. And without any further ado, let's jump into the battles right now. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, having Alolan Ninetales in the lead plus Registeel as a safe switch is going to open up this team to a lot of potential threats in the lead, such as any fire type, Nidoqueen, or Galarian Stunfisk. For that reason, replacing Registeel with a Pokemon like Galarian Stunfisk on this team would make a lot more sense in theory because it would become a classic ABB style team. However, Registeel is just so powerful that even in a poor matchup, it's going to perform quite well. So we are starting these battles off here at 2958 ELO. Alolan Ninetales into a Walrein, that's a pretty solid lead. The opponent swaps out into a Talonflame, and we respond with Shadow Swampert. Now, of course, this team is going to be extremely weak to fire types, so the only answer we have is Shadow Swampert. Since none of our other Pokemon could deal with Talonflame when shields are up, we cannot afford to take the risk of being taken out by a Brave Bird, so we are going to invest the shields in that matchup. Once the Talonflame goes down, Walrein will come back in. We're going to go straight for the Earthquake in case they do not want to shield, and since I do not want the Walrein to farm up this Swampert, I'm actually going to swap out into the Alolan Ninetales. That's going to lure out a Swampert from the opponent. And again, one of the drawbacks to this team is that aside from Alolan Ninetales, none of our Pokemon really have any fast move pressure. This puts us in a tough spot here because this Swampert has too much HP for Registeel to come in and try to lock on down. As a result, we are forced to burn our final shield in order to take out this Swampert, but now being down a shield against a Walrein isn't exactly the most comfortable position to find ourselves in. As a result, there is likely only one win con left at this point in the matchup, and it's going to require catching an Earthquake onto the Swampert. In this scenario, I did end up going for Zap Cannon, thinking that it would keep us out of Icicle Spear range, but in hindsight, going double Focus Blast probably is the safer play. We have to anticipate that the opponent is expecting us to swap out, so I actually decided not to swap once they got to the Earthquake, actually wait 1 to 2 turns past the Earthquake, then bring in the Swampert, and that's going to set up for the outpace straight to the face. Bang! There it is. Definitely not an easy catch to make. At that point, it kind of becomes a guessing game, but those are the kind of plays you're going to sometimes need to make in order to reach Legend rank. So jumping into this next matchup, we have one of the more difficult leads to see with this team, Galarian Stunfisk. And when we swap out into Registeel, the opponent still has the option of staying in this matchup. In this particular scenario, I did try to call the Rock Slide bait, expecting them to try and force a shield and then swap out, but instead we get hit with that Earthquake, and that puts us in a very difficult spot because now we are going to get Mud Shot all the way down, and even though we still have 2 shields, once the Swampert comes in, we're going to have to show respect for that Earthquake, and they're going to get one of our shields regardless. Now they end up coming in with a Shadow Granbull, and I was thinking if this is a double charm team, we might have a chance, but we are in for a rude awakening instead. Shadow Victory Bell in the back, about to make us feel like Bournemouth catching 9 goals from Liverpool. One of the worst feelings to get Razor Leaf down as a Swampert, but also one of the better feelings when you're the one running the Shadow Victory Bell, so it goes both ways. We end up going 3-2 in that set, and fortunately for us, that was good enough for a 17-point climb, which is very generous for a 3-2. Going to take that every time. Let's hop into the next one. So we are now sitting at 2975 heading into this set, which means a 4-1 will get us to legend rank. Hopping into this next match, we are leading Alolan Ninetales into a Registeel, one of the more difficult leads to see of course. Going to swap out into our own Registeel, and the opponent comes in with a Swampert. So this is obviously a losing matchup that we cannot take switch advantage from, but we'll throw the Zap Cannon right here, make this matchup easier for the Alolan Ninetales, and hopefully Shadow Swampert will be able to sweep this game in the end. Typically when we're swapping out to Registeel with this team, we're looking to lure out either the fighting type or the Trevenant. When they bring in a Swampert with a Registeel in the lead, I'm a little fearful that they might have a hard answer to Swampert left in the back, but the Ninetales is pretty much useless here without alignment, so we just use it as a sponge to absorb this damage, come in with the Shadow Swampert, and it is a Sableye in the back. So with 2 shields apiece, this is a winnable matchup here for Shadow Swampert. However, this matchup is going to leave us very low in HP, and we also need to exit with energy ready to go. So going to throw a second Hydro Cannon here on the CMP tie, and because the opponent actually decides to let this go through, it's going to put us in a position to shield and commit to the complete mud shot down. That's going to leave us with enough energy to throw an Earthquake. The question now is, does the opponent shield this? We do not bait, we just bang! There it is. I don't know if that was a paid actor or if they just expected the Hydro Cannon bait, but we take those. 1-0. Let's hop into the next one. So jumping into this next matchup, we are leading Alolan Ninetales into a Azumarill. This is actually a pretty neutral matchup and one that A9 could win if we want to invest shields. The real question becomes, do we want to try and catch a Play Rough onto Registeel? It's a high risk, high reward play because if we catch the Play Rough, obviously we're taking resisted damage onto Registeel, but if they don't throw at the Play Rough, they're exiting that matchup with a bunch of energy stored on Azumarill, which could end up haunting us in the end game. At this point in the battle, I allowed the Ninetales to get so low in HP, it didn't really feel like it would make much sense to swap out trying to preserve it. Instead, I allow it to go down, thinking I would come in with Registeel and look to lock on down Azumarill, but the opponent swaps out into Trevenant. Now the bright side here is that we do keep this away from the Swampert. The negative aspect of this is that we don't have any answer for Trevenant. So that's going to actually force us to invest one of our shields here in order to lower the attack on Trevenant and get it low enough to a point where Swampert might be able to take it out with a Hydro Cannon. Now of course I could never shield this because then I'm at risk of being farmed, and even with the attack debuff, I'm pretty sure a Seed Bomb would still be enough to one-shot a Shadow Swampert. So we are in what seems to be a pretty much unwinnable position at this point. Azumarill comes in, I'm going to farm to exactly 100 energy, throw the Hydro Cannon, actually try to undercharge, but it still takes them out. Sableye in the back, have to go straight for the Earthquake right here. They decide to no shield. Bang! There it is. Able to mud shot down, but this is where I make a mistake. I think I may have actually assumed that they had no shields left, so Hydro Cannon would be enough to win, but they do actually still have a shield remaining, so the only potential win con was to attempt a complete mud shot down. Would it have been possible? Probably not, but it was the only chance we had at winning. Throwing a Hydro Cannon makes absolutely zero sense and eliminates every single possibility of winning, so in that scenario we need to read the situation properly, go for the mud shot down. Even if it's not enough, it is the correct play. In this next matchup, we had a very positive lead. Ninetales into Sableye, opponent swaps out into Lickitung, and we come in with a Registeel. Now the PvPoke simulations will say that Registeel actually loses this in the 2 shields, but that's only if you're going straight Focus Blast. If you go straight Zap Cannon or Zap Cannon plus Focus Blast, you will be lowering the attack, and as a result winning this matchup even in the 2 shields, eliminating any possibility of the opponent taking switch. Now that of course may change with Zap Cannon receiving a nerf for season 12. I would assume it's probably going to be lowered to 50%, maybe even 30%, but that remains to be seen. I did decide to invest a shield to protect Ninetales from that incoming return. Lickitung comes back in, going for the Weather Ball right here. Lickitung actually survives, going to be able to get off a move. We are going to preserve this shield for the Shadow Swampert, and I'm expecting possibly a Steel type in the back. It's actually a Swampert of their own. This could be a little bit dangerous. Hoping to force the final shield right here with the Weather Ball, which we were able to do. And after getting that shield, all we have to do is swap out into our own Shadow Swampert, shield up the incoming Hydro Cannon, and we will outpace to the next one, which is going to be enough to win us this game. So winning this game is going to put us at 3-1 for this set, sitting at 2975, which means if we win the next one, a 4-1 set should be enough to give us the 25 points we need to reach Legend rank. And when I saw this Alolan Ninetales line up into an Obstagoon, I started getting excited, maybe even celebrating a bit too early, because once the opponent brought in a Shadow Swampert, we once again see a weakness to this team. And it's not that we cannot beat the Shadow Swampert, but it's the fact that we're put in this tricky situation here, where we are kind of forced to stay in with the Ninetales. If we come in with the Shadow Swampert, we're going to be behind on energy. We're likely going to end up losing that matchup because the opponent obviously is going to want to play for switch in order to keep the Obstagoon away from the Ninetales. The thing is though, even in the 0 shields, Registeel should be able to win that matchup against Obstagoon with Focus Blast, so perhaps that was a potential way for me to play out this match, but it's hard to say without knowing exactly what the third Pokemon in the back is for this opponent. Shadow Venusaur, of course, not what we want to see at this point, and a CMP tie right here is definitely not what we want to see. The opponent also got a Night Slash boost, which didn't pop up there on the screen, but the sound definitely was there. Ninetales gets taken out, but there is actually still a win con at this point. Expecting a Night Slash from a boosted Obstagoon, I decide to invest the final shield, but it ends up being an Obstruct. If this Hydro Cannon took them out, I believe we would have been just 1 or 2 mud shots away from the Earthquake. If we were able to outpace the Venusaur to the Earthquake, it would have been enough to take them out, landing the biggest bang for the legendary push. But instead, our path to legend faces some obstruction, and after that choke, I was feeling like I should go join Harry Maguire on the bench at Manchester, because I've been one set away from legend numerous times already this season, and it's been a complete downward spiral. 29.92, let's hop into it. Alright, so 29.92 heading into this set. I must have reached this scenario at least 10 times, and in the majority of those cases, I have tanked down all the way to the 2700s. So let's try and finish this once and for all. Alolan Ninetales into an Altaria. This is the dream lead. Opponent swaps out into a Toxicroak. At this point, I am anticipating a Registeel in the back, possibly an Empoleon, but it's definitely going to be a Steel type. The most important thing here is to maintain the alignment. Since we have Registeel for Altaria, this allows us to keep the Alolan Ninetales on the Toxicroak. Although Swampert is a very strong answer to Toxicroak, we want to preserve that for the Steel type, which is hiding in the back. CMP tie here is the best case scenario. The reason I stayed in with the Alolan Ninetales, of course, I want to maintain that alignment. Registeel now comes in to face this Altaria. Prior to having Zap Cannon, Altaria actually could win this matchup with a shield advantage. However, Zap Cannon has turned Registeel into an absolutely busted Pokemon, and hopefully the nerf to Zap Cannon will make it less dominant in the Great League meta. Unfortunately, that's also going to affect other Pokemon such as Ampharos, which really did need Zap Cannon to be effective, but it is what it is. At this point, I know the opponent will shield any move thrown at the Altaria, so I go for the Focus Blast in case they try to catch, and what they catch is a bang! There it is. Altaria comes back in and I get very greedy thinking I can reach another move. This may cost us the battle because Altaria gets a massive amount of farm. I decide to let the Sky Attack go through and it now becomes a race. Swampert to 2 Hydro Cannons or an Altaria Dragon Breath farm. The opponent throws and I was really worried they were at back-to-back because it doesn't make sense to throw here unless you have the move ready to go, but thankfully they do not. Swampert, even as a shadow, able to survive and take out Altaria for the massive 1-0 start here in this set. Let's hop into battle number 2. And we have Alolan Ninetales into Ariados. This is a pretty awful lead, but at least we have 2 strong answers in the back. Registeel comes in, opponent is staying in, so they're looking to lower our attack here with the lunge before swapping out into a Sableye. At this point, it's going to be very difficult to win switch advantage because our attack has been lowered. The opponent also is investing a shield, so at this point, I'm just going to allow the Registeel to go down, take the shield advantage, and hope that Shadow Swampert could do Shadow Swampert things. So after landing this second Zap Cannon, I see an opportunity here for Shadow Swampert to come in and get a very nice farm. We have a shield advantage, so I could shield one of these foul plays, and the opponent throwing here is a huge break for us because it means we are likely not going to take any damage on Swampert aside from the Shadow Claws. Ariados is very unlikely to come into a loaded Swampert, so even if the final Pokemon is not a great matchup for Swampert, having a massive energy lead could help to flip that matchup. The opponent comes in with an Azumarill, and with this big of an energy lead, this is definitely a winnable matchup here for the Swampert. They shield up the first Earthquake, going for a second right here, which is going to leave Azumarill in the yellow, but I think right here is where I make the crucial mistake, which ends up costing us this game. Instead of building up for another Earthquake, I decide to throw the Hydro Cannon. At this point, I thought I could exit with a Hydro Cannon stored, but we weren't going to be able to do that. I swap out into the Ninetales to catch this Ice Beam, but unfortunately, we are very unlikely to reach a Psyshock, which is going to be necessary in order to take out this Ariados. They also get the attack boost, so now we're forced to throw the Weather Ball. They are going to Poison Sting us down, and because we do not have a Hydro Cannon ready to go, Ariados is going to take us out with a boosted, resisted Cross Poison. You hate to see it. GG's to the opponent. 1-1. Let's hop into the next one. So needing a 3-2 set in order to reach legend rank, we can only afford to lose a maximum of 1 more game in this set, and Ninetales into Stunfisk is a very bad start. We swap out into the Registeel, opponent banks some energy and then comes in with the Trevenant. We are going to go for the Zap Cannon right here. Attack is going to drop. We will be able to survive a Shadow Ball, and there is a possibility that we will be able to outpace to another Zap Cannon right here. This is very good news for us because it means that the Trevenant is going to have to go down a shield. We could safely allow the Registeel to go down now and look to come back in with the Alolan Ninetales without investing any of our shields. The most important thing here though is that Registeel lured out the Trevenant, which means that Shadow Swampert no longer has to worry about it, and with a shield advantage, we can be in a very good spot. Opponent brings in a Noctowl, we have an energy lead, we have a shield advantage, and things are looking very, very good, especially if we could leave this matchup with a shield in hand, because that Stunfisk does have a lot of energy ready to go. Hydro Cannon forces the shield. We are going to shield up this Sky Attack right here and hopefully outpace to this next Hydro Cannon, which we are able to do. But is this going to be enough to take out the Noctowl? Yes, it is. Stunfisk comes back in. They don't want the smoke. Get them out of here. 2-1. All we need is 1 more. And here we go, going up against the Iceman, so with a name like that, we gotta take it personal. Alolan Ninetales into a Sableye, and the opponent is staying in. What does this mean? Very likely to be weak to Charm in the back. We are going to shield this up every single time. Return that Sableye back into its Pokeball, and it's an Azumarill that comes in. At this point, we could safely come in with the Swampert, knowing it is very unlikely that they have a Steel type in the back, and Swampert likely is not going to be needed. That lures out the Mandibuzz as expected, double weak to Charm, and we're just looking to do some chip damage here with the Shadow Swampert before the Alolan Ninetales comes back in and puts this Mandibuzz to rest. And Registeel is absolutely licking its chops to get a piece of that Azumarill in the back. Foul Play takes us out. Ninetales charms down the Mandibuzz, and I am clicking on this Registeel at the speed of Usain Bolt. Opponent is deciding to play it out, so very likely that they are running Hydro Pump. We are going to shield up the first move here because that is the one doing the most damage. They can no longer swap out to reset these debuffs, and these Zap Cannons are just going to absolutely demoralize this opponent. At this point in the battle, the opponent's only win con is for the Lag Gods to strike down upon us with great vengeance, and in this game, it's very possible. Prolonging the inevitable, we will survive a Hydro Pump, but it's not necessary because here comes that Zap Cannon for the final bang. There it is. Season 11 in the books. 3 wins locked up. We did end up losing the 5th game in typical Ox choke fashion, so if we needed 4, we would not have made it. But a 3-2 should be enough for 8 points here and get us to legend rank for season 11. This was definitely one of the more difficult seasons, especially without using any XL Pokemon once again. I would like to give a special thank you to any of the paid actors I encountered along the way. Obviously not the way you would want to reach legend. However, in a game where so many battles are lost to lag and other issues, it always feels nice to pick up a free win. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and a comment down below, and if you'd like to see more content like this, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.